Hey, it's Ollie, and in this video, I want to take a question from the community here on YouTube. There's a communities tab up here somewhere where you can send me messages, leave replies to me, and things like that. And I go in there periodically and look at what people are saying. And if I see a question of some kind that I think will be interesting to talk about and valuable for other people, then I will make a video on it. So go and have a look there and see what people are talking about, if anything. And one such question that came back through that was about the difficulty of understanding native speakers and listening as a beginner. Okay, now this is an experience that everybody's had. You start learning a new language, and you listen to someone speaking that language, and it's just a torrent of words flying over your head, and it's a pretty uncomfortable experience. Okay, especially if you're new to the whole language learning thing, and you just think, well, it's so fast, there is no way I'm ever going to be able to understand it. But of course, if you've been through the process a few times, then what you know is that it doesn't stay that way. And it does get easier. The only thing you have to do is keep going. Okay, so again, one of the benefits of having the experience of going through the process of learning a language many times is that you don't get so phased by these uncomfortable experiences, because you know that they're only temporary. All right, and you know what it's like when you're listening to someone speaking really fast. Like, you can sometimes catch a couple of words that they say, but then you're kind of thinking about that word, and by the time you've figured out what that word is, they're then kind of on to the next sentence, and you've fallen behind, and you can't keep up. And many people find themselves panicking if they hear a word they don't understand. They panic and they think, "Oh, I missed that word, so I'm lost now." And it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy after a while. But so how can you get over this as a beginner? Well, okay, here's the basic issue that you have to contend with. When you're a beginner, you simply don't know enough words. So when somebody's in front of you speaking to you, or if you're overhearing somebody talking, if you don't know the words that they say, then how are you going to understand? You can't, right? It's a very common thing that you'll hear teachers say is, well, try to guess from context. Try to listen to what else is being said and guess the meaning of a word. It's kind of a listening micro skill. And so a lot of times people try to do this, but the thing is that only works when you already understand the majority of what's going on, right? So it's fine to guess the meaning of words when you understand the rest of the sentence, but when you don't understand anything or very little, there's not much you can do. Right? Your best bet is to try to pick out the few words you can and maybe follow along with the general gist or topic. Like, if that's all you can do, that's pretty standard. Okay, so your main mission to get yourself to a point where you can actually understand spoken language is to learn tons and tons and tons of vocabulary. That's pretty much all you got to do, and for the first few months at least, it's just like you just got to learn words. Now, in addition to learning vocabulary, you also need to be able to pick apart sounds that you hear. Okay, and this is the other half of the listening skill. The first half of the listening skill is nothing to do with listening; it's just knowing vocabulary. But the other half of the listening skill is to be able to pick apart the words that you hear, and this is what's called dealing with connected speech. Okay, when people speak, words tend to all kind of run and mix together, and you've got to be able to pick those apart. Now, the best way to learn to do this is by reading along as you listen. Okay, so ideally, when you're studying things, you're going to have the audio to listen to. You're also going to have the text, so you can listen along and read at the same time. Now, what this enables you to do is to hear what you see and see what you hear. All right. So every time you hear something that you don't quite understand, you can then look straight away at the words and you can see what has been said, and this helps you to just pull apart all the different jumbles of sounds that you hear and kind of pass those sounds into individual words. And that is that is the best way to. It's a great way to learn vocabulary as well, because not only can you hear it, but you can see it. But in addition to learning vocabulary, it is a very, very good way to just get yourself used to the sounds of the language. And so, on a very simple level, if you want to get better at listening, then what do you think is the one activity you need to do more of? It's listening. Yeah, so the number one prescription for bad listening is to listen every day. And if you can add the text along to that, then that is what is going to help you just triple the efficacy of that thing that you're doing. Okay, so it's super important, and that's why with the courses that I develop, for example, my beginner Spanish course called Spanish Uncovered, the whole I take the whole approach that the best way that I can help you to learn Spanish in this case is to not really teach you the rules of the grammar and stuff like that, although that's important and we do that as well. Like beyond all of, but like before you get to any of that stuff, like I'm gonna be shortchanging you if I don't get you to spend a lot of time listening and reading to Spanish in the first place. Okay, and so the whole foundation of the course is that you get this book written in simple Spanish, and you spend your time reading and listening to it. Every chapter of the book, before we study anything in the course, you just spend time reading that chapter of the book, and then you listen to it because it comes with the audiobook, and you're listening and reading to that lots and lots of times, so spending time with the language. And what you find is, even before you can get to the teaching videos where I kind of pick apart the words and phrases and the grammar from the story that you've just read, what happens is you find that you kind of know half of it already because you've just spent all that time listening and reading to it. Okay, so you can't shortcut your way to listening, to being a comfortable listener. You've got to build it up gradually, and the best framework for doing that is when you are spending lots of time listening every day. And the best way to make your listening even more effective is to give yourself the text so that you can read along at the same time and see what you hear. This is when people don't do this. That's what happens when you get people who reach a kind of intermediate level in language, but they still can't really have a good conversation because they can't understand. The reason is they just never spent enough time listening. It's as simple as that. All right, so I hope that's useful. This is how to as a beginner, grow your listening skills so that you can understand native speakers and take part in conversations. If you want more information about the Spanish course that I mentioned, you can go to SpanishUncovered.com to see how that works. Even just for kind of, it might be interesting just for you to look at how it's put together, because the way that course is put together is quite a good illustration of how this concept works, of spending your time listening to the language. Anyway, there we go. If you'd like more videos like this, subscribe to the channel, please. Leave me a comment below with your questions, comments, concerns, observations, and I'll see you back in the next video.